think you came on the show twice to do stand-up comedy, and obviously I thought you were terrific, and you have flourished. And then you do this show just for us, and it is quite spectacular, one-man show where you really tell this amazing story. And I encourage everyone listening to watch it. What amazed me is that the heart of the story, without, I don't think, giving too much away.
Say what you want.
Okay. You decide to attend a meeting that you found out about on Twitter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in, It's
in Queens.
It's in Queens. It's a group of people who are trying to preserve...
pride and white identity.
White identity, yeah. And so...
Yeah. They're not crazy about Jews, not to spoil too much.
You guys are, you say preserve white identity. You're being so kind about
it.
They're
white nationalists.
Nazi sons of bitches.
Well, I know, but listen, we have a lot of people listening right now, and I don't want to offend anyone.
Okay, and this is Brooklyn.
We've got to keep everybody under the tent.
Okay.
You know what Michael Jordan said? White nationalists buy sneakers too.
You know, some of our response, who knows? You know, I just got to be careful.
White nationalists sleep on Brooklyn too.
Yeah.
They wear it over their heads. They you know.
Right. I'm sure white nationalists are eating up the better help.
Now look, if you're a white nationalist and you're listening, you're welcome to.
If you want sheets to cut holes in Brooklyn,
but here's what's amazing to me. You go to this, it's a true story of you in 2018, I think, going to this meeting. You show up, you don't really announce your full identity, and you're accepted into the group, although one guy has his eye on you. But you act this whole thing out, and there's lots of terrific, wonderful asides and cul-de-sacs. It's not all just about this one night. But to me, the feat, which really blew my mind, is that the show is very funny, and it is not angry. You know what I mean? There's something about
totally...
it, which I thought was kind of, you go and you experience these people and you bring them to life, and I disagree with their beliefs violently, but you give them their humanity, and you're not ranting and raving about them. You're experiencing them as human beings, and it's very funny and delightful, and not, I don't know how to say it, not toxic. Empathetic, yeah.
So so what I did when I started writing the show, and I had help, my director, a lovely man named Adam Brace, and we were talking once. My best friend for a long time, Adam, and Adam would always reference what the worst version of the joke would be. And so one day I was bored on a train to like a tour stop for this show early on, like literally February of 2020, like right before the pandemic. And I started writing the worst version of the show I was already doing. And I was like, what would be the worst and dumbest version of these jokes? One that was like, desirous of victimhood and really angry and really tacky and really earnest or really cynical. And I wrote this like shitty version of the show, like the sort of dark side crap version of it. And every so often when the show would change, because the show would change every day, I would compare against the shit version. Mm-hmm. Sorry to curse. If that, I know.
No. We lost our deal with Nickelodeon.
I know.
Okay. You know who doesn't like cursing is the white nationalist.
Yeah. Well, fuck you guys. No, okay, but,
hey,
yeah.
Phone lines lighting up. Said Conan, not understanding podcasts.
Wait, don't you have a podcast where you talk to the fans on the phone? Like, isn't that?
That's another one. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, but so so I would compare this thing, but yeah, I wanted a show that wasn't going to be about like. Do you know Pauline Kael is?
Yes.
Pauline Kael, for anyone
one of the
listening,
great film critics of all time.
Yeah. I was reading a book of her reviews, and and there was like little snippets of things she'd only done a paragraph on. And she gave a review to this movie about the Nuremberg trials called
Judgment at Nuremberg?
Yes, Judgment at Nuremberg. And she says, I hate this movie because it takes a brave stance against being a Nazi.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that I never did a show about neo-Nazis that took a brave stance against being a neo-Nazi, because I assume that most people watching my show are aware that it's not amazing to be a neo-Nazi.
Right.
So instead of being like, what does a version of this look like where instead of being like an early, like the Daily Show and the, like when I was in high school and college, did this tremendous job of sort of like gotcha comedy with like exposing the hypocrisy of, you know, like
Powerful figures, politicians,
exactly, and folks, and even regular people who were supporting the folks sycophantically, and I was watching some of those clips. And wow, they've really lost their zing because we know it now. Like we know there's no surprise being like, oh, a Trump supporter has double standards on morality, kills shock, you know, like it's really, And so I wanted to ask more interesting questions with that, like, you know, that unique opportunity, and also want to reckon with the difficult truths there, which is that I am in some ways like some of those people, or share a point of view on one or two of the things that they're saying, or think that, like, and so like thought that would be a more interesting show and a more humane show, especially given the like rancorous present that we live in. Yeah,
I think it's also that kind of comedy to me is more durable. That's, I always think, is the prize to be shooting for. So I thought this was really nicely done. There was a bunch of things that I noticed, which is your physicality on stage. You have a lot of energy, and you're running around, and you have sort of a comedic way of moving around the stage that was really making me laugh. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking?
Nice. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's kind of this. I mean, I don't even know what.
It's called ADHD, Conan.
Is that it?
Sorry, but yeah, you know.
There it is. Yeah.
But you know, the funny thing is that I realized some of that's a bad habit, some of that's intentional, and some of that's a bad habit. And I don't know any other way to bring this up, but Adam Brace, who and
I know it's coming because he helped you bring this to life.
Yeah, he's my director, and like I said, my closest pal. We worked together on 3 solo shows, and he passed away right before we started on Broadway. And so, you know, and so that sucked.
Yeah, and he passed away very suddenly. It was a shock.
Yeah, it was very surprising, and I think actually very inconsiderate of him, given he had work to do, but it's okay. Really not commensurate with his theatrical responsibilities. But Brace, he told me when it was okay to move and when it was okay not to move. Like there are moments in this show that are very anchored and still, and then there are moments where you run around, and it's good because it puts a contrast on the moments where you're still, because they're like, oh wow, that guy sure moves a lot, and then like, oh wait, he's really standing still for this. I guess this part's important, but like I've always had help from other people, and I've always like wanted. Also, that's the other thing. The show was socialized with like 1 million comedians. Like every comedian who came, I would interrogate them for notes. Like Seinfeld came, and I was like, "Give me a note."
Was Seinfeld's bass notes in between scenes?
Yeah.
Because I found that to be off-putting.
Yeah. The Michael Richards cameo doesn't really fit, but we did have to cut around it.
And I realized they were all anti-Semites.
Yeah.
Boing, ba-doing, doing, doing.
They're all anti-Semites. Although I remember when Seinfeld came, I remember thinking, how did anyone ever kill Abe Lincoln? Because the whole time the crowd wasn't watching me, they were watching Seinfeld. And I was like, wasn't there like most of the people at the play were like, is Lincoln enjoying the show?
Yeah.
What does Lincoln think of our American cousin? Oh no, but look out!
The weird thing is, most of them would have known John Wilkes Booth, so they would have just been like,
I think about that.
They would have literally thought like, oh, there's the president, and there's George Clooney behind him. Hey, what did George Clooney just do?
That's genuinely. I think about it constantly, but the thing is, it's like it's his brother. It was like his brother was Edwin Booth.
Yeah,
and
Edwin was a huge star.
And there's a theater on Broadway still named after Edwin Booth, which is like, how talented does that guy have to be? It's like, welcome to the Mark Bin Laden Theater.
And afterwards we'll all hit Oswald's for a steak. Damn, I hate what his brother did, but this is fantastic.
Yeah.